Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Sunday. I'm George Mossey. This is the George Mossey Show, the After Show for Before the 90 Days, Episode 3. Um, Unfortunately, Kara or Didi will not be joining us tonight, but we do have a special guest who's going to come in and talk with us. Gina will be here. So we're going to get into this episode and try. So we'll get Gina in here. We're going to start talking about episode 3. Hi, Wheels 1056. I love your name. Hi, Lisa. Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm getting sick, but like not like fully sick. I'm in the vicinity of sick. So
Take vitamin C in emergency.
yeah, I got some tea and coffee, and I'm gonna be like good on my vitamins and stuff. But this happens to me all the time. I get sick all the time. It's not weather related. I just get sick. I don't know. So, but we're gonna get into this episode 3 of For the 90 Days. So I want to talk about Rain and Chitty first because we got the big scene with the chickens, right? So we saw what happened, her reaction to Victoria purchasing, because, okay, so she had arrived in Lagos and she spent the night there and they were going to have a big meal together, right? They were going to cook dinner for her to welcome her, into the home. And they were going to have chicken, which is, a pretty normal thing that you would eat in Africa, right? Like chicken is pretty normal. So they took her to the market, and their market is a very fresh market, right? A little more fresh than we're used to here in the US. So they were going to actually kill a live chicken to bring home to cook. And Rain or Renee was very offended by the idea of killing a chicken. But Victoria brought up a really good rebuttal because she was like, well, don't you eat chicken? And she's like, well, yeah, I totally will eat chicken. I just won't be a part of killing it. And it's kind of hypocritical, right? Because I know I have friends that are vegan, and if it was alive, they have no part in it, right? They won't eat it. They don't support the eating of it. They don't support of killing it. So Rain is kind of on both sides of the fence. You know how you have that one friend who's like kind of playing both sides. She's playing both sides of the fence because she raises chickens as her family, right? As her own, but she also eats them, which, in a human standpoint, that's like saying that you love humans, but you're also a cannibal, right? Like it's really
Yeah.
hypocritical. So I want to get your thoughts on that because most people on X or Twitter said that she's missing all of the screws, right? Like she's a few tools short of the toolbox. So is that how you feel too?
I I think she's wearing an invisible tinfoil hat. Like the phrase, like people who are, well, like Renee, shouldn't generalize that. Sometimes they wear a tinfoil hat, and she is one of them. But I was just like, oh my God, why are you such a hypocrite? Like, you eat chicken. Oh, well, I can't see it. Like, the butcher needs, if it had feelings, the butcher needed to have feelings. What feelings? No butcher has feelings. They're there to make money, to sell you the product.
Well, I don't like how she was blaming everyone else. Like she was blaming Victoria. She's like, well, she knows that I love chickens. She would kill a person's family in front. Like she was weaponizing her love for chickens and using it against everyone involved. Like I would never go to the grocery store and ask for the name of the supplier of a certain type of meat and then weaponize that person or that company and say that they don't have feelings. You can definitely have feelings and work as a butcher or work in a slaughterhouse farm. Like it doesn't make you a bad person. And I felt like she was trying to make it seem like people who kill chickens are bad people. Because if you could put that in a category, people who eat chickens are bad people, because if you really care about, because there's a lot of people, PETA, there's people who fight for the rights of animals and they fight for the rights of treatment of animals. And if you really, really gave a damn, you wouldn't eat it, right? Like, okay, so for instance, my favorite animal when I was a kid was a giraffe. So when I got older, I used to join all these groups so I could get like up close and personal with giraffes, and I would donate and become members of these groups. And the last thing I would ever do to this day or ever in my life is eat a giraffe. because I really, really care about that animal. So it's like the idea that she thinks that she can care about the animal and then eat the animal at the same time is just crazy to me.
Well, she makes her doesn't she makes her bread and butter, Renee, like selling eggs and chickens and stuff like
Right.
that? What do you think these people are going to do with the chickens?
They're going to,
Just let them be, like just let them wander in like their gardens or their farms? No, it's to reproduce, make eggs, make money.
well,
So, but I
right.
did.
And to say that, because did you notice in some of the scenes we were watching them walk through the market in Lagos, and there were just random chickens roaming free. So I
Yeah,
was like, if anything, they definitely respect, because you know in America they put them all on a farm and put them in a gate in a coop,
in
and they're not allowed to.
cages.
Right. So I was like, they definitely respect the animal because there were just random chickens roaming around. No one was trying to eat those.
It's just
Right.
like
Like,
with turkey and with their love for the cats too. But they're not going to eat the cats, obviously, but because it's but I was going to say too. I wrote it down. Like Victoria's house is nice from what
it was.
from the standards that we've seen TLC, whether it be Michael and Angela, like from the standards. I'm like, dang, that house is kind of nice.
No, it was nice. And also, I want to bring up the cooking of the breakfast. So, Shitty woke up and cooked her breakfast, which his independence is so impressive to me. And also, we're going to get into Brian and his independence too later. But he's very independent. And I did get a little nervous. He had a really sharp, long knife. And he was kind of, and it made me nervous because I didn't know if he knew that Renee was behind her and he was like swinging the knife around. But the fact that he can cook, cut up things with the knife, light a gas stove, all of the things that he could do, not being able to see really makes me realize how much I take advantage of what I have, and I think this is a real eye opener for me. I I remember, okay, this is gonna sound stupid, but I was in the shower and I was washing whatever little hair that I have, and I got shampoo in my eyes. And once you get shampoo in your eyes, you can't see. It burns. You have to like run the shower over your eyes for a while. And I was like, temporarily unable to see until I could fix that. And I remember shuffling around and almost falling, just from like 2 seconds of not being able to see. And then I'm watching Chitty as all of the things that he's able to do, like all of the hazards that he has to go through just in his town, right? Like of going out and doing things. And then it makes me realize, like, wow, I was like unable to see for 2 seconds and almost fell. And this man is able to live, cook, become independent and do all these things. It really opened my eyes to, the struggles that people have and how we just take full advantage, of those things that we have, and we're not appreciative, of having eyesight, having hearing, having your limbs, like we're not appreciative of that.
Your senses, actually, from what I've read or heard, your senses actually, if you one takes away your sense of smell, your like sense of taste, your sense of hearing, if you're blind, is enhanced because you have to learn how to have to learn how to adapt, right? So your senses are more with the different other senses that you have.
Well, yeah, he said that the market, it was really distracting and disorienting because his hearing is so heightened.
Yeah,
So we heard all the horns, the cars, the killing of chickens. There's a lot going on. For you to take in, and you also take advantage. You don't really appreciate that as well. When our senses are evenly distributed. So the sound doesn't get to that point because it's evenly distributed. But when you take away a sense and then one is so much more heightened than the others, it does. It's very distracting. It's hard to concentrate. It's hard to really focus. And that's something that he's dealing with on a daily basis. So I was impressed watching him cook breakfast on his own without, and the way that he wanted her to sit down and not help him. I'm just so impressed by the level of independence that everyone this season has, suffering
mm-hmm.
from, different disabilities. I don't even like to call them disabilities, but like disadvantages. They still want to be independent and take care of themselves and be their own individual without asking for help. And I think that's just really admirable.
Definitely.
So she Chitty finally found out that it was time to tell her, right? So Chitty told Renee that they're not going to be having sex. His vow to God is that he's going to be celibate, and she didn't take it well. She was very upset, and I can understand that traveling. thousands and thousands, almost 10,000 miles across the world to be with someone that you've been talking to for 5.5 years, and y'all have had conversations about being intimate. And then when you get there, the story has changed. How would you feel? Would you feel like you were betrayed if you got there and then found out after the fact that y'all weren't going to be intimate? Because I know that you're kind of like strangers, right? Like, I see it from both sides because you've never physically met, even though you've been talking for 5 years. It's not the same as having a real relationship, a bond, a friendship for 5 years in person. Like, when is an acceptable amount of time after you arrive that you would expect that you guys would be intimate together? Or do you feel that way at all?
Well, first, I wouldn't travel that far for a booty call.
For
Sorry.
nobody? For
For
nobody?
nobody.
Oh,
For
okay.
nobody. It's not worth it. And you were talking to 5 years, then, like, obviously she was led on to believe different. Like, he portrayed himself differently. So that's obviously not a red flag, but maybe she made more of it than what it actually was, and maybe it was just to entice her to go there so then they can see how they would work out, right? Like, because he hid that he was blind, and then like just different little things. And I do like him. Like, I do like him. I have a soft spot for him. Like, I do like him, but I think there may be more to it than what she's portraying. Like, oh well, this and that in the text messages. But when you're actually text messaging somebody, it's portrayed differently than if you're actually face to face or on the phone. So she could have, and plus she has a tinfoil hat on, so Lord, like, with about
Well,
aliens and stuff, she could be like, oh, like she could even be making this stuff up about everything, because it wouldn't surprise me.
he did withhold the blind thing from her in the beginning. I look for patterns. So, like, I feel like, I don't know, like, but I don't know if that is something that you lead with, because watching the show, we're starting to learn that people don't always reveal things right away. Like, we're learning that if someone is trans, they don't always tell the person on the first date. Right, like, you do want to try to get to know somebody before you tell them something. Like, they're not going to be intimate on the first date. It's not necessary to bring it up. So I was like, well, maybe Chitty felt like, well, I'm not going to physically be on a date with her. We're not going to be physically out together. It's not necessary for me to tell her that. Because if you consider it a disadvantage or something that about you that might be negative, because we watched that with Brian, it isn't necessarily something you want to lead with, right? Like, we,
Yeah.
as us, like me and you, we wouldn't lead into a conversation as, oh, I don't work well with others, or I don't catch on to things as fast as other people. Like, we don't lead with our disadvantages when we meet people. We put our best foot forward, and then later on, people learn, that we have these things about us that people don't really like. So I look at it like that too. I was like, maybe he didn't tell her because it wasn't pertinent information. Because, when you want to get to know someone and you want them to get to know the real you, your disadvantages are not really that big of a percentage of who you are. You're so much more than just being blind, or so much more than being quadriplegic, or so much more just than being trans. So I think it's important that people get to know the person before they start taking, their disadvantages and making judgment off of that.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't know. Like, she's just out of
Well,
this world.
Rain she's just interesting. The way that she said she was going to get violent. And I was like, well, what do you mean by getting violent? Are you going to, like, physically attack the butcher? Are you going
Are,
to, like, are you
are you
going
gonna
to,
throw a chicken at him?
well, right.
Like,
Like,
are you gonna
I,
grab a chicken and
the
throw it
way
at
that
him? Like,
she behaved, it was just so erratic and strange. And it was just really confusing for me because, I never looked at her as a completely all the tools in the shed, shiny and working person from the beginning. Like, she definitely was different for me, but I was just like, the way that she reacted to the chicken situation. And then when Victoria took her to the side and was like, "You eat chicken." So,
right?
like, you can't behave that way, because she's acting like a member of PETA,
If
right, at
it'd
a chicken
be one thing
festival.
if she was a vegetarian and been like, I don't eat meat, or I don't eat eggs, I don't
Right.
eat like
But
dairy, like,
not only does she eat it, like you said, that she sells chickens and sells eggs, so she's sort of exploiting chickens at the same time, right? Because, like, those same chickens that she has laying in her bed, she's taking their babies. Because let's get technical for a second, those eggs hatch into chickens, so she's taking those children from the mother. Because she said it, she's like, would you really kill a family member in front of them. Well,
Well,
you
she
rob,
is.
right? Let's be technical, right? She's taking that unhatched baby from the mother and selling it to someone who is going to eat it. That is literally the definition of a hypocrite, right?
Well, did you see her face when she was like, when Victoria questioned her, was just like, well, like again with the eating chicken part, she was kind of like backpedaling, like, oh, like, and caught off guard. Like when I saw her face, she was like when I was watching it, she was like kind of backpedaling it and like going off guard about it and stuff like that. I
Well,
don't.
she knew that she had gotten he got her. She got her. Victoria was like, well, look, I would understand this reaction from a vegan or a vegetarian or, someone who actually had a leg to stand on in this situation, but like you literally sell chickens and eggs to people. So like you are no better than this butcher. So placing yourself on a pedestal up here when you were doing basically the same thing is completely crazy. Like you are literally on the same level, right? Like you might not take a knife and cut its head off, but you're literally selling its children to people so they can eat them. Like it's pretty much the same thing.
Doesn't make any sense. She doesn't make
None,
any sense, but
none of
then
it makes sense. Yeah, Jay Queasy, she sells chickens and eggs. That's how she says she actually supports her whole family. She has 2 kids, and she has a farm. She has other animals as well, but she said the majority of her financial support comes from selling chicken eggs. So it's just so hypocritical, right? And it's like I
she's the
hate to.
pimp of the chickens. She's
Right. She's basically the pimp and the chickens are making her cash and then she somehow feels like she's holier than people who eat the chickens. Which is okay, so I want to talk about the new people tonight. So we got Vea and Sunny. And I wanted to get raw reactions from you because Vea, okay, so do you remember Zaid and Rebecca? Do you remember we called Rebecca the filter queen? Because so
yes,
a lot of people are saying that Vea is Filter Queen 2.0. So do you remember the pictures that Sunny showed us tonight on the episode versus who
yes.
we saw tonight? How do you feel about that?
You know what? Honestly, if like as long as you're not portraying yourself to be Kim Kardashian, because we all know that is not possible. Like I filter some of my pictures too. By all means, like like you're on TV, you're trying to put your best foot forward. By all means, right? But it's one thing to majorly filter yourself, like a Darcy and Stacey situation,
Right.
but a little filter didn't hurt anybody, right?
Well,
When you got a little blemish here, a little blemish there, but she lives in Orlando. She's so close to you. Go find
she
her.
does. I know. I was very surprised. I was very surprised she's my neighbor, basically. But yeah, I saw the pictures and I did see the people were posting the Rebecca and Zayed pictures where Rebecca was wearing the filtered picture on his shirt at the airport. And then when Rebecca arrived, the girl on the shirt didn't match the girl in the airport. Okay, Jay Queasy, that's exactly where I was going next. Jay Queasy was like, what about the fact that she looks older than 27? So
She
the
does.
internet has been going deep and they were like, we can buy a lot of things that people sell, but her being 27, I'm going to need to see a receipt because they're just not seeing it. And I was like, 27 is a reach. I would have said 35, right? And that's like being very generous. Like she could even easily be in the 37, 38 range.
She
I
looks
don't
about
know.
my age. We'll just
I don't know
be
if
at the
she's
40 mark.
yeah, I don't
That's
know if
it.
she's lying about her age, but the internet they caught it right away. X and Twitter fans were like, well, one thing about 27 and her is she's not 27. They were like, well, that's the first thing we're gonna say. She's completely lying about that. And then we met Sunny, but we're also meeting Rory, so it's kind of like a love triangle, right? So Rory is her ex that she was dating, I guess, prior to Sunny, and she's bringing Rory with her to South Africa in order because she doesn't want to be alone, which was confusing to me because she had 2 able-bodied friends that were with her at her house that she could have asked to go with her. I just think it's really interesting to bring an ex because I've talked about the ex subject a lot on my podcast and it's touchy because everybody feels different about it. Some people are like, I can be friends with them because if I wanted to be with them, we would still be together. And then some people look at it as, well, I always look at it as there's still feelings lingering. Even because a lot of people will say the hate they have for their ex, there's a little love in the fuel for that hate because it's like a betrayal or they cheated and the relationship ended badly. So that the hate is driven by some sort of love. So how do you feel about her bringing an ex across the world to meet a boyfriend?
don't understand. Like, why? Why? Like, you can be civil with an ex, but obviously there's some red flags there that they're still in each other's lives for a reason, and they don't want to cut ties with each other. Like, I've
Right.
cut ties with my exes, and the only thing that we say to each other on a yearly basis, and I said this before, is like, happy birthday. That's about it. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
You said on Facebook. On Facebook, you say happy birthday, which, that's pretty standard.
yeah,
I have people that I went to middle school and high school with. I say happy birthday on their wall on Facebook, and that's pretty much the
that's
extent
the
of,
extent of the whole
yeah.
conversation. Like if we run into each other, like in the cities doing something or at the amusement park or whatever, we'll say, "Hey, what's going on? How are you?" But has the family? That's about it. Like, and there's nothing outside of that. But the fact that she's bringing in an ex and didn't it like say like to one of her friends with her anxiety and whatnot that she claims like, and I, it could be true, right? She did say she doesn't fly a lot, right? Bring a friend, not your ex. It's a red flag. It would be a red flag for me if someone was, well, first, I wouldn't want that to happen. Someone was traveling with me and brought his ex girlfriend. Like, are you Delulu? Like, you're
Well,
out of your mind. And it's like, I don't know where they are. I couldn't remember. I didn't write it down, but it's like, there's a very, like, it's in somewhere in South Africa where they've got, and he's Muslim too. Like,
oh yeah, it's
yeah,
South
you're
Africa.
out
I
of your
think
mind.
it's in Danish, South Africa, but he's actually from Bangladesh. But you're right.
Yeah.
That's another aspect. He's Muslim, and Muslim men are very strict on, especially their wives or fiancés speaking to other men, because in the Muslim religion, a woman is, if she's married to a Muslim man, she's not even really allowed to like have a conversation with another man. We were actually watching this a little bit with Tiger Lily and Adnan tonight. So that's going to be an issue, I can tell. And the main thing that he brought up, that Sonny brought up tonight with his friend Ali, was there's trust issues. He said that when they have a fight, she just doesn't answer the phone. She ghosts him. She disappears. When you're really far away from each other, ghosting people is detrimental to the relationship because it basically means you've erased that person from your life. And we've heard couples that do this on the show before. They just, and then when you're ready to talk to them again, you'll start taking their calls. But I don't trust that because it means that you had the option and opportunity to X them from your life like they never existed. So I feel like you never were in love, because if they were local, would you have done the same thing? Because if they were local, would you just pretend that they don't live in the same apartments as you? Like, would you just ignore them? I don't think you would.
Exactly. And why is her ex on his Facebook or his Instagram, sorry, laughing at his pictures?
The I think that's jealousy, and like, cause I was like, he's like, oh, he takes too many selfies. I was like, that's what people say when they're jealous of the person, or that's the new boyfriend, girlfriend of the new girl. Like, that's not what an ex that doesn't care would say. First of all, why are you on his Instagram?
Right?
If
That,
she
that was my whole point. Why are you on his Instagram? Why do you care? If you're just friends, then you're not going to be on his Instagram.
Exactly. If you're stalking the new guy's Instagram, you're not over your ex, because you want to know who she's dating. You want to see every selfie he posts. You want to know who he's talking to, what he looks like. That's a red flag for me. Like, if you're all, because there's no reason why he should even be on the Instagram. You could know that she's dating him, but there's no reason for you on your personal account to be on his personal account commenting, especially laughing emojis, basically saying you're not good enough. I would be a better boyfriend. That's what I get from that. Like, it's just hate and jealousy, and it makes me wonder, if they broke up and she's moving on to another person, like you said, but she won't move forward from her ex. If Rory is still around, there's something there. Because, and another thing that I was thinking, if I was to bring my ex to meet a new person, like, how often does an ex usually ever say anything positive about you? So, like, that's like me bringing a hater with me to hate on me, because usually exes don't break up, and it's usually not like two best friends after a breakup. It's usually you saying vile things about each other, right? Like, that's usually how it goes. So I wouldn't want to bring a vile person with me to introduce to the person that I'm trying to convince to love me, because it's not going to go well. They're going to tell them all of my flaws, and then some exaggerations of my flaws to make me seem like a piece of crap.
Pretty much.
Well, I'm interested in the storyline though, because I'm intrigued. And when I found out she was local too, I was even more intrigued. So I'm gonna be looking for her and Sunny around the city now, just to see if I run into them. But oh, I want to get into Brian and Ingrid. So Brian got to Brazil, and he first off he got there, things went well, and he number one asked Ingrid to install his hand controls, which confused her because she was like, he's usually told me that he travels alone. He doesn't need anyone. He doesn't need help. He's independent. So her being a woman, she got her nails done, her hair done for this meeting. She was not physically ready to do mechanic work on a car. So she was like, okay, I'll do that. You know, strike one, right? Strike one. She was going to let it go. And then they get back to the hotel and he kind of shows everything right away, right? So he has a bag that collects the urine, and you know she knew about it because she had seen the catheter before, but he kind of put it in her face, right? He was like, oh, I'm gonna put this on, and he kind of came on really strong. So I wanted to ask you, how do you feel? Because obviously, you know, these are things that need to be discussed and understood if you're going to be in a relationship. But how would you feel if you were Ingrid and this was the first night and he's showing you all of these different things and kind of involving you in it, right? Because she literally rolled over to the bed and turned around and was like, I don't want to know. Is that how you would feel too?
He's like he said in like the interview, like he's perfectly capable of doing it himself, and he was just taking advantage of the whole situation itself, just to see what she would do, or like to I think to get like to have any sympathy, to get closer to her, type of thing like that. But he's totally giving me Garrett vibes from Seeking Sister Wives. I don't know what it is. I don't know. He's totally giving me some Garrett vibes.
Garrick, really? That's
Because he's
interesting.
always going to Brazil. He's always going to Brazil. He's always finding these Brazilian beauties, right? He's always going to Brazil. Same
Yeah.
with Garrett, always trying to find like those. That's the only comparison, not having more than
That's
one.
interesting. I didn't
And
get
the
that
fact that
vibe.
he's been engaged like 4 times, right?
Okay.
Like
And there were and some were Brazilian. Okay, so I didn't get the vibe, but I see the journey to how we got here. I can see that. That's interesting. And I mean, I think Ingrid being someone who's never been in a relationship with a quadriplegic, a person in a wheelchair, I think that I was always taught that you expose people to things a little bit at a time, right? So like when you're learning to drive a car, you wouldn't go on the I-95 or the 405 the first day that you start driving a car, right? Because that's way too much for anybody just starting out. You would go to the parking lot of like an old rundown Kmart, right? Like you would go where you have space, you can ease into things. And I think that also works with exposing people to just anything that's different. There's nothing wrong with the way, you know, Brian has to go through life and the things that he has to do. But I think introducing people into that, because I think he basically was saying I wanted to test and see how, you know, how she reacted. Sometimes exposing people to things too quickly, it's not going to get a good reaction because a person is just shocked.
yeah.
And sometimes they're, you know, I call it scaring people away, you know, like because
Well,
they
the fact like he's been on a plane for how long and transferring for how long, a quadriplegic, at least in my cousin's case, because he's one, that's why this story is totally giving me like creepy vibes. He has to use the washroom every 40, like use the washroom every 48 hours type of thing like that, because he has a catheter, he has a bag and whatnot. I don't need to know any other details. Like he's had a girlfriend before, never knew about the aneurysm, don't ask, right? Never knew about the details that he's sharing. So this story kind of hits close to home, but kind of doesn't. And I just kind of want to block it out because it's too close for comfort for me. So, but with the the maneuvering, the driving or whatnot, it's I don't think it would be easy for someone to install it just because, or for someone who is a quadriplegic to install it themselves just
right,
because of
right.
like you're shuffling, you're moving around,
I
right? So I don't,
did think that because he showed us the mobility of his
yeah.
hands, right? And he can't squeeze the way that his hands work, he can't actually like grip. But
Hmm.
I was wondering, do you think that he could have actually asked the car rental place to install that, but
They,
he wanted to see how Ingrid reacted to being asked? Do you think that's what he was trying to do?
They probably wouldn't know how to do it, right?
Oh,
Because like you got to put in that factor because like how many like everyone should be independent. So, but a lot of people who are on like who's a quadriplegic probably um can't drive or won't drive or too afraid to drive, and that's why they're not probably specialized in it. I don't know. Like I think for my cousin, he had a mechanic put it in, but like or a specialized mechanic that specializes in that. But it just he just yeah. I don't think a lot of and like needed to be like it's kind of like I think in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken, they would drive mostly standard too, not automatic. And this car works like when they put in like the special equipment or whatnot, works almost like an automatic. So
oh,
my cousin has asked
oh.
me to drive his car, and I'm like, no, I
See,
refuse to drive your car.
this was educational for me because I was always taught that if someone was in a wheelchair or quadriplegic or paraplegic, and all of the controls were on the steering wheel and there were buttons.
Mm.
So this was a learning experience for me. I didn't realize that you could take any car and install the controls. I was
Mm.
under the impression that the car had to have the controls built into the
Mm.
steering wheel. So this, I mean, like I said, it was very educational for me. But I think for Ingrid, you know, just like when you're in school, you're in college, and you go to school and you take 4 classes in one day, and every professor wants to teach you everything in that one day, and you're like, this is a lot of information for me to retain in one day. I think she was overwhelmed. I think that she looked at it as this is obviously as the trip went on, she was going to be exposed to more and more of his daily activities. But I think what he did was a lot, and I'm just worried that he's going to scare her away. And I think this might be something that he does. He might come on too strong because he's worried that women will be turned off by what he has to go through, and I think he exposes it to them really fast. And then he might be right. A lot of women are like, well, I can't deal with this is a lot. I've
But
never.
after like the fourth or fifth time, wouldn't you already know, like, and learn from your mistakes? Like, hey, maybe I shouldn't have do this and do this instead, or that, like, you know, like
You
it's
would
just
think, because
you.
let's not forget, he's also going to tell her what really happened with his ex-wife and how he got in the chair in the first place, which, you know, I don't know if you guys read
I've
the
read it.
stuff online. Yeah, but it's not good, right? Like, this is not good. Like, she's not going to be happy to hear that it happened because of infidelity,
I'm
right?
actually surprised his car in the United States because my cousin has one,
Mhm.
like his wheelchair. It actually he hooks it to this thing and then it goes up. Like he presses a button and it goes up, and then it folds into this like carport thingy, like on top of his car. Like it's kind of like
Oh,
a
yeah,
yeah.
his was in the passenger seat, wasn't it?
Yeah,
The
I think it's
chair.
his is in the passenger
Yeah.
seat, and it was just causing my cousin to have more back problems. So he invested in that, and it literally just
Oh.
hook it and just put it up, or someone puts it in the back seat. But then he's got this little mechanism going on. He hooks it to the thing, and it goes up, and then it folds in, and then it closes.
Well, I don't know how I feel. I don't know if I have high hopes for this relationship. I
No,
do like
I know.
Ingrid, though. I do like
I do
Ingrid.
like her too. She's very patient, and Cara had said last week, she shows a lot of love and care when she first
Mhm.
saw him, and like took the time to get ready, and like there's some love and empathy there as well, right? But he's coming off too strong, I think. So, and that
Yeah,
could be for many
she has
reasons. So,
babies too, you know, like taking on, you know, because he is selling himself as being super independent. He didn't need help. But in actuality, he does need something from time to time. And
hmm
she has to be willing to give that to him, as well as take care of her babies, and as well as do, you know, the things that her responsibilities are. You know, that's a lot to ask. You know, it's a lot to ask. He's been married a lot of times, you know, so I feel like there's probably something going on with him, like you said, that is rubbing women the wrong way. And I don't think it has to do with the chair, like you said. I think it has to do with other things. And we're probably going to learn more about that as we go along, because he makes it seem like, oh, well, women they're afraid of a man in a chair. And I was like, I don't think it's that. I think you might be doing something specific that they don't like, and it doesn't really have to do with you being in a wheelchair. I think you might just be a liar or a cheater, or it's a behavior of yours, you know, that women all find repulsive. You know, women don't want certain behaviors out of
Well,
their
his daughter
spouses, you know?
did say, "Don't bring a ring with you," right? Like
Yeah,
dropping
because
him off
that's
at the
his
airport.
MO. That's his MO. Right away, trying to get engaged, trying to get married, and that can scare a woman away. It's really ironic because a lot of men are like, women just want to get married and they want to get engaged, and I was like, yeah, in the right timeline. Women do want to get married. They want to be engaged, but not like 15 minutes after meeting you. You know, like there's a timeline that they're looking for. Obviously, if you've known her for 8 years and you're not engaged, she's probably going to leave you. But if you've known her for 8 days and you're not engaged, she's probably okay with it, right? She's still getting to know you. So I think he's rushing things, which I get it. He's 51. He wants to find a forever partner, and he's been married so many times. So I understand it from both directions, but still.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
so
know. There's something going on with that.
so Adnan and Tiger Lily have gotten married, and they have consummated the marriage. He refused to give us any details, but he did tell us that he's no longer a virgin, which I would assume, right?
I think it's
He,
over. Yes,
so
but
that he gave us the detail on that. But something that he said tonight was really interesting. He said that he doesn't have a problem with her not wearing a hijab and showing her hair, and he doesn't even have any intention of wanting her to convert. This is new for me, right? Like this is new for me, for a Muslim man to not have that intention
oh,
is really
oh,
new.
it's just a show, George. It's just you wait. Like no, no. It's just for a now thing because it's just like, oh, we're newly married. Just gonna like do what I want. Like I'm just gonna make my wife happy right now, but things will change.
Oh, so you think it's the relationship is too fresh, the marriage is too fresh for him to really start to show
To
his true
control.
color. Oh,
Because
okay.
look
So,
at the control factor that he had with the hairdresser, or
well,
that with her friends,
yeah,
with like everything else.
I wanted to talk about the hairdresser situation because he literally stood there and watched, and then he had the audacity to set a timer. Now, one thing I know about women, hair salons, and hairstyles, I know when a woman goes to the hair salon, we're talking maybe 2 hours to 5 hours,
Matt
sometimes 6 or 7 hours, depending on the type of hairstyle they're getting done.
just
So
went on Friday 2.5 hours to get my hair
right?
colored.
Like this is
So
not an in and out thing, right? So he's like, "Oh, I'll give you 5 minutes," and I was like, "See, I can tell you're new to women because 5 minutes is not even enough time for a woman to put on lipstick." You know, like that's crazy to me. And the idea that he doesn't want her to convert, he doesn't want her to cover her hair, but he doesn't want her to be around any other man.
it's
It's really conflicting for
it's
me.
just the small things. Like first it's like I don't want you to be around other men. And then it's gonna be a bigger change, and then a bigger change, and a bigger change. I must say though, his mom is very beautiful. His mom is very stunning. She's very beautiful. She's a very beautiful woman.
She had her hair covered because I
Yeah,
was like,
well,
it's
partial because you
weird.
can see like the bangs or whatnot.
Right,
But her
right.
makeup
But
was done. Her makeup was on point. Yeah,
I don't know. I want to believe that he's he's gonna be the controlling person because it's been I don't think we've ever met a Muslim man that didn't want some form of control over his wife, right? Like it's part of their religion, it's part of the book that they study, and it's I don't like it. It's like a cookie cutter story. Like we've been watching the same story over and over. So when he said that, I was a little confused. Also, at the wedding ceremony celebration, not the ceremony itself, they were eating with their hands, and everyone was reaching their hand into the food. It was like I wanted to call the health department like really bad. It was so gross. And I understand that Muslims use their hands to eat. I actually was watching Forbidden Love, and the guy said that they actually wipe themselves with their hands, like when they go to the bathroom. And one hand is for bathroom, and the other hand
it's
is for eating.
for eating. Yeah,
And they don't use toilet paper, and it just blew my mind because I'm a very germophobic person. So the idea of eating with my hands or going to the bathroom with my hands, it just seems like a disease waiting to happen, right? Like I would be so when I watched, he would literally reach his hand in the food and then put it in her mouth. It was new for me,
yeah.
right? Like that was the whole thing was new for me, and it was new for her too because she's like, I'm not used to so many people trying to shove food in my mouth, right? She's like, it's just really weird. But I get that part of their religion is the cleanliness, right, and being closer to God through cleanliness, and then eating you know, the hand goes straight from the food to the mouth, and it's I've heard them explain it before. It made sense. It's just it's crazy to me because I could never eat with my hands. I mean, I've eaten fried chicken with my hands. You know,
Tacos,
there's certain stuff that you
pizza,
could chicken wings, pizza. I get it, but like what they were eating, that was spoon and fork food, right? Like that was spoon and fork food. That was
rice, and
and then they were
cheese.
eating it, and then the spit from their hands, and they're going back in. And it was just
Oh,
it was a
oh.
lot for me. I needed to call the food department, the health department, and I needed the violations to be written up like now. So I was like,
Yeah.
no.
No. But honestly, who goes to bed or who wakes up with like false lashes, eyeliner? I'm like, oh God. And she couldn't have done her own hair. Like, are you kidding me? And then I was wondering through the whole ordeal, like with like when they went to register for the wedding or whatnot. I'm like, okay, you just signed something. You don't know
Don't
what
know
you
what you're doing,
signed. You
right?
have no idea what you signed. Why didn't you take out your phone? Google has a thing now where you can put the freaking thing, like take a scan something, and it'll tell you exactly what it says. And the fact she didn't have her friends there, I thought her friends were like for a while until she said that I gave them the day off. I thought they had like just arrived for the
That was
arrival
the
with the hair and the makeup, and that was
Yeah,
it.
that was the next day when they arrived. She got married. The ceremony that night. Then the next morning was when she was gonna go meet the parents. She had already given them the day off, and I was like, "See, these are sounding more like employees," because she made it seem like, "Well, yeah, they're my employees, but they're my friends. They should want to be there with you to support you."
Exactly.
An employee would be like, "No, I'm off today. Don't call me. Don't text me." That's an employee. Your friends should want to be there when you meet his family, should want to be there when you're getting married, should want to be there for the
For the
ceremony,
celebration.
for the
Yeah.
celebration. And why are they even there if they're not going to be doing her hair and doing the makeup? Like, why are you even there? Like, at this point, I'm just confused at the whole presence of them being there.
Hell, if someone wants to pay me for like for me to keep them company and give me so many days off, like, and you want to pay for the flight, by all means, you can do that. I will gladly accept that.
I mean, I'm open to that. Hold on, there's somebody we didn't talk about. Oh, Lauren and Faith. So Lauren has arrived in the Philippines, and he had enough money to book his hotel for 20 days
Did
at,
he? Did he? Did he book the
well,
hotel though?
we think. We don't know. We don't know if Faith actually paid because this is her job. So she could have asked for a comped room. Like we
A
don't know exactly.
discounted room, a
Right.
discounted
We don't.
room,
Yeah,
please.
I'm pretty sure when you work there, like if the rate's 150 a night, like an employee can get it for like $75, right? Like
Exactly.
that's usually how it works. So she probably got him a deep discount, but she's gonna notice right away because somebody brought this up. He got there with a backpack. So he didn't have any clothes. He didn't nowhere near enough for 20 days. So he's got to go shopping and buy some stuff. And then we
On her,
saw in the preview.
hopefully not on her dime. Like,
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. I'm pretty
hell
sure
no.
because in the preview, Faith was taking him shopping because obviously he had no clothes, and she was like, I'm not with him for the money," but she was like, "I also feel like he should have more." She was like, he has so little money, and it's funny because I was always taught if you don't have any money, take your broke ass home. So there's no chance that you would catch me on a vacation or out on somebody's airplane or going to another country with no money. That's crazy. First of all, my anxiety wouldn't let me. Like I have to if I'm going on vacation, I have to have at least a couple of $1,000s to bring with me just in case, just to make my nerves calm down enough cuz what if you get over there and something happens and they ground all the airplanes and the only flight out costs 100 or
Well,
$1,500,
that's why you
right? Like say
have
remember when
insurance.
there was all those issues over there in Israel and with all the and people the planes were grounded and there was no way to get out. Like that's the type of stuff that goes through my mind. So the idea that oh yeah, Jay Queasy, he brought $46 on a 21 or 20-day trip to the Philippines
So that's like
shows you
$2 a day almost, or $3 a day that he plans on spending.
yeah,
I
well, I think our money is worth a little more over there. So like it's probably gonna triple, but still, come on now. $2, $3 a day, that's not even gonna cover your food, your expenses. And he didn't have any clothes. I know he went there with the intention of using Faith. I know this is what he was gonna do. He went there with that intention. I think that he thought that he was gonna stay with her for free. I think that's what he originally initially thought. Then when she got there, she was like, look, because she did admit tonight she's been in relationships with men, but none where she actually had feelings for the person. So this is the first time that she loves someone and is in a relationship with them. So she wants to take it slow. She doesn't want to just hop in the bed. You know, that's a mistake that she had made in the past.
I like her, I really do, and he's just gonna trample on her and use her, and she's like so hardworking and dedicated, and she's a hustler. Like she has
Mm-hmm.
like 3 jobs, 4 jobs, and he's just gonna hurt her and walk all over her. And then when she finds out I want an open relationship, she's gonna be like, heck no. Was that his mom or was that her mom in the preview for next week?
Yes, that was her mom, which that's big, you know, meeting her mom. I think that when he sold himself to her, it was all lies.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the mom was asking, like, you know, well, what's going to happen? What are your intentions? And he's like, oh, I kind of want to stay here. And she was like, that's not what we talked about. You know, we
Nope.
talked about you bringing me over to Las Vegas and I could work and I could have a better life. And like, again, he's reverse green carding her. So basically, you know, the scam is actually reversed. He's trying to squat into her life because imagine your life in the US is so messed up that the Philippines seems like a better option. Like imagine the bad decisions that you have to make because in Faith's mind, she was like, I could go over there and live the best life. I
A
could work hard.
better life. Yeah.
Exactly. And she could because she's like you said, she's a hard worker. She doesn't run from work. And I feel like Lauren runs from work. He runs from that because it pissed me off a little bit tonight when I saw that he had money for the hotel because I've been watching the Reddit posts and
Oh
he keeps
God,
saying all
George,
these
no.
nasty, he says all these nasty things
Oh,
about his
I
ex-wife.
know. I
And he's like,
know.
oh, she wants me to pay all this child support. And I was like, she doesn't want you to, Lauren.
It should
You're supposed
be an
to. It's an
obligation for
obligation,
you
right?
to
Like
do
she
or
doesn't
do it.
want anything from you. You are court ordered to pay her child. She doesn't want anything. How dare he make it seem like she's a horrible human being for wanting the best possible life for the children that he abandoned? Like he's really getting to me. And I just when I saw him show up and he had money for the hotel and I was like, so he just inserts himself in other people's lives and takes advantage. That's exactly what he does.
He is a leech. He is a blood-sucking leech. And I'm sorry, what would he do? Oh, with these 40 questions, like, you have a peanut brain. What are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna give it
So
to like a
Faith
psychiatrist?
handed it
Because you're the one that needs help, dude. You're the one that needs
Faith
help.
handed it back to him and was just like, "So we're in grade school," and I'm hoping that she catches the red flags. And it also that pissed me off a little bit too because in his opinion, he was like, "I need to make sure you're good enough for me," and I was like, "Bro,
She's
you're
too
not good
good.
for her, right? Like she needs to run from you. You are not the catch here, right? Like you have no one should be subjected to whatever you got going on in your life. You need to just be alone for a while and just figure all this hot mess of a life out before you involve anybody else." So when he handed her the test, I was like, how dare you think that you have the option to say, oh, well, if you don't pass this test, you're not good enough to be with me. I was like, please, he's serious. She is basically the top of the line. She's a Lexus Cadillac of women compared to what he deserves. So it was kind of disrespectful to even give her that.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just like, oh God, why is he so dumb? I'm like, oh, I know why, but you know.
Well, when I saw that he was saying that his ex-wife was evil because she wanted child support, I knew what we were dealing with,
Mm.
right? I was like, well, I already know what we're dealing with here because she don't even care about the child support. The court is who's telling you to pay, right? Like it's your responsibility. And the fact that you're out here doing everything but doing that, I know what we're dealing with. So next week we're gonna meet another couple. Did you see that?
Yes, I did. Yes, I
Yeah.
did.
So next
I'm
week we're gonna
excited
meet
for
another
them.
couple. I think this is the last one. And then we'll be with everyone on the season, right?
I believe so. Like so far, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. I think there were 6 couples from what I
Yeah, I think
saw
this is
before.
the last one.
Yeah.
So for episode 4, we'll have everyone, which is it's exciting. I didn't even realize that we were missing anyone. I felt like the
I
drama was
didn't either.
yeah, I felt like the drama was pretty good the way it was. So I saw the new couple and I was like, oh, this is exciting. Another person to add to the chaos. So and tomorrow I Love a Mama's Boy is premiering. So if you guys are not familiar, amazing show. I love it. As you guys
Yeah.
know, I was a mama's boy for a long time. I slept in my mom's bed with her until I was 12. I was a huge mama's boy. Okay, so I love the show. Like, unfortunately, my mom lives thousands of miles away from me now. We moved far away. But when I was younger, up until like 17, 16, I was a huge mama's boy. So I'm very relating to the show. I love it. So if you guys aren't watching, tune in tomorrow night. It's coming on after The Other Way. No, I'm sorry, after Pillow Talk for The Other Way tomorrow. And then we're going to try to do an after show for that. Probably not tomorrow, though, but we'll figure it out. And I have an announcement tomorrow. We're going to be doing a podcast announcement tomorrow of collaboration, so I'll let everybody know about that. And, I want to make sure that I say get well soon to Cara. She's under the weather tonight.
Get
and
well,
thank
Cara.
you to, yes, please, we miss you. And Dee Dee, too. We miss you, too.
And Dee Dee.
And thanks to Gina for joining me tonight. Thank you, everybody, for listening and chatting along
I
with us.
do have one thing to say, though. Sorry, I didn't.
No, it's okay.
Did you? I sent you the Debbie's picture with Colt is in my city, and he's apparently on the dating apps here right now in my city. Yeah, that's what
I did see you sent me that.
Yeah.
Is he like visiting? He's visiting his mom, right?
Yeah.
But he's.
Oh my God, no! And literally, they're having like this car-free day event near my house, and I'm like, oh no, I ain't going. No.
Oh, you don't even want to run into him, right?
I don't even want to run into Cole.
Debbie,
that's for sure.
I definitely, absolutely love Debbie, though.
I know. My friend and I have been like, we've got to meet Debbie. We could just never find her. But yeah, he is in town. I don't know for how long, but hopefully not for a long time. So he is in town. So I saw the pictures of them, and I'm like, oh God, dear God. I'm like, no, the last thing the city needs is more dirt bags. So
yeah, it's peculiar too when somebody's only in town for a short amount of time, but they're on dating apps trying to look for people. It's like, so you're not in town for long. You're just trying to just randomly hook up with random
Well, she
people.
said that he was on dating apps. I can assume that he's on like looking for girls.
I know he is. I know he is. That's who he is. Like, I know he is. You don't have to sell me. I know he's there. He can be there for
allegedly.
Be there for 2 days, and he would be on a dating app because that's just
exactly.
All right, guys. Make sure you're following Gina. I'm gonna tag her in this video, and make sure you're following me on all social media platforms at George Mossey, GeorgeMossey.com. Anyway, get your podcast, type in the George Mossey Show. Thank you for joining us tonight. Everybody have a good night, and we'll talk. Wait, does he care of his kid? Colt does not have a kid.
I think he means Lauren. No, he does not.
He doesn't.
Scum of the earth. No.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye.